Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. It's nice to see you all today, and happy Friday. So I'm looking forward. Hi there, Shauna. I'm looking forward to taking questions today. I also am going to touch a little bit on VAWA and how your children can get VAWA relief as well. I think it's important for you to understand that so, in certain cases where you're in a situation where you're being sponsored by a spouse, you have your children at the same time, and you are afraid to move forward with the VAWA because you believe that you're letting your children down if you apply for VAWA because they're not going to be able to get their papers through your spouse. And I want to let you know here that your children who are under 21 and unmarried can get VAWA with you. This is the way it works. So first, when we file a petition for you, your children are listed on the VAWA petition. And once your children are listed, they're going to issue a notice to us indicating that the children are also derivatives on the application. Usually it's listed on the prima facie determination letter. At that point, you can be rest assured to know that if your children are here in the US, when you get approved, they can go forward with applying for adjustment of status with you, and they'll get deferred action with you. That means continued protection while the green card goes forward. If the children are outside of the United States, then once you get your green card here, they're going to forward the paperwork to the embassy in Jamaica. And then well, I shouldn't say Jamaica, in the country, in your home country. I'm from Jamaica, so it's very easy for me to say Jamaica. But they're going to send the paperwork to the country that your children are in. And from there, you're going to be able to work to get your children here on the green card. So your children will be included. So you get to have peace. You get to maintain peace. You get to maintain stability. You get to move forward with your life, build strength for yourself, empower yourself, and you get to put your children in a stable environment once they're able to get their papers along with you, whether they're here in the US or when they come into the US from the country that they're in, they are coming to a place of stability and peace already. So I just wanted to let you know about this process, that your children are included. So you're not letting down your children if you're in a situation where you need to get out. Your spouse they're putting you down. They're constantly using the immigration process against you. They're verbally abusive. They're emotionally abusive. They're manipulative. They're controlling. They're financially abusive. And if you're in a situation like this, but you feel like I need to stick this out, I have my children are depending on me, and I'm depending on this spouse to get my papers, just know that you don't have to depend on the spouse anymore for your papers, and your children can depend on you for the papers, and your children don't have to be affected by what the spouse is doing to you. All right. So now that I've said this piece, I'm going to go ahead and answer questions. I see plenty of questions coming in. So bear with me as I just scroll through. I'm going to go on each platform. So we have TikTok here. We have YouTube, Facebook, and then Instagram. Hi there, everybody on Instagram. So let's go. But I'm pretty sure each of us can benefit from the questions that I'm going to answer. I applied for VAWA in November 2020. Still, my decision is not made. When will it happen? So usually the decision is going to be around 2.5 to 3 years. So it's probably time to check on the processing. But keep in mind that when you check the case processing times on the USCIS website, they're saying their average processing time right now is 40 months. So you might still be within those 40 months. Let me see. So we're going on to 4 years. So you should be getting a decision soon, very soon. But around now it's time to check on it. What happens if I overstayed and I had a red flag on my visa? So once you've overstayed, you can basically count on the fact you've lost that visa. So if you leave the country, go back to your country, you're probably not going to get that visa again. Can a person living in the project in the project petition for marriage? Okay, so can a person who's living in the projects petition for marriage if they make over 30,000 per year? It depends on your household size. So I'm going to give you a little tip. Go to the uscis.gov website. When you go there, go to forms, and or you can do it in the search. Look for I-864. Is it W? No, I've blanked out. I-864P, the I-864P form. So the I-864P form it has the chart. Let me just check, because for some reason today I might be in on weekend mode today. So let me just go ahead, and I'm going to make sure I'm giving you the right instructions. Yeah, so it's I-864P form. Go to uscis.gov, go to forms, select the I-864P form, and then look at the chart. You're going to see how much your spouse or relative needs to be making based on their household size. Count yourself in the household size, by the way, and count the children, any children who are under 21 and unmarried, in the household size. And that will tell you whether your spouse is making enough money. It doesn't matter where your relative lives. Doesn't matter that they're getting public benefits. But what does matter is, are they making enough to be able to be approved for this petition? Now, yes, where getting public benefits can be a red flag is usually you have to be under the poverty line, under a certain percentage of the poverty line to qualify for food stamps or housing assistance or any kind of public benefits. But for the immigration, you have to be above that percentage, right? So if it usually indicates that there may be an issue with income if you are getting public benefits, because it means that you may be under the poverty line. But there's always the alternative. If your spouse cannot meet the income requirements, all is not lost, but you do have to find an acquaintance, friends, family, anybody who can step in to make up for that income. Where they make the sufficient income, then that's going to help fix that situation. What if I don't marry? What if I don't have any documents to prove our union? Married for 8 years, is there any hope? So my question would be, how is it you're married for 8 years and have no documents? Is it that throughout the course of the marriage you were being mistreated or abused, and they restricted your access to documents that would show that you were a married couple? I'd really have to talk to you about the circumstances involved, because if this is a marriage-based case and you don't have anything to prove that you were married for 8 years, then maybe it's time to do that. If this is VAWA, and this is based on mistreatment, then let's talk, because then there's a little more flexibility, because sometimes that's a part of the abuse, is taking away your access to documentation. So it all depends on the reason behind you not being able to show. That's a red flag, though. Usually when I hear something like that, it it often means there's some form of mistreatment or controlling behavior that would qualify for VAWA. All right. If someone is filing for VAWA and VAWA is still pending and her kids are back in Africa, can she do a school visa for two of them or visit? So they can always apply for a visa to come to the US for a student, but keep in mind that they do ask those questions. Where is your parent? They can check to see that the parent is in the United States, and they can then suspect what immigrant intent. So they can apply, be completely honest on their applications, and see if they're able to get the F1 to become students here. But they also may have encounter the questions that, where is your mom? And from there, or they can determine that based on the application, and from there they can come to their own conclusion about intent. And intent means, immigrant intent means you intend to use that student visa to live permanently in the United States. Student visa, you still have to show that you have temporary intent, and so that could get in the way of getting the student visa. Hi, good afternoon. I'm a U.S. citizen. Can I find my dot? I'm thinking, can you file for your daughter? So if you're a U.S. citizen, but your daughter is 38, it's a 5 to 7 year process. And then even after the 5 to 7 years, when they're ready to process the application, your daughter is going to have to apply for a special waiver to get forgiveness for the overstay. And when they're ready to schedule the interview at the embassy, they're going to send her, once the waiver is approved, then they send her to the embassy for the interview. So it will not allow your daughter, it's going to take long, it's not immediate. It also means that your daughter is going to have to leave the country at some point to go to the interview at the embassy. Usually when the waiver is approved, it's safer, and I usually evaluate for my clients all the way up to the point they're leaving to make sure everything is still okay with that. So, it's not a quick solution, but your daughter can always give us a call. So let's see if there's an alternative solution we can help with. I'm answering questions on YouTube now, so please feel free to type your questions there so I can answer, because I'm on there right now. What if someone overstayed their visa? Is there an adjustment for that living 15 years? Not right now. So hopefully in the future we can have immigration reform that can give people who have been here for that long immigration relief. This is why those of you who are listening who are US citizens, this is why we need to participate in the voting process. So Vice President Kamala Harris has talked about her agenda for immigration relief. And keep in mind, if you're a citizen, don't just think about voting for president and vice president. They don't make the laws. They can support the laws, they can issue executive orders, but those can always be challenged. The where we need to also focus on is voting in representatives, senators who will support that agenda as well, because that's where we're going to see the reform. That's where we're going to see comprehensive immigration reform. When Congress passes laws and then the president can sign that into law, right? So she can push that agenda, but that is why we have not seen it yet. We've seen laws that bills. So before it becomes a law, it's a bill. So we've seen bills proposed, wonderful, great, like the Dignity Act, for example, but it's not moving because we don't have the people in Congress who can agree to pass this immigration reform, right? So we don't have the majority that we need. So on the Democrats are more inclined to pass immigration reform. So do with that what you may. But if you're a U.S. citizen, participate in the voting process, because that's what's going to make the change here. Hi there, Dee. What if you only have a green card for 2 years? Is it okay to file for husband? No, if you received your green card through another spouse and then you divorce that spouse, you have to wait 5 years, after 5 years of having the green card, or become a citizen before you can file for your husband. The presumption is they will deny the green card, the application for your spouse, they will deny it unless you can show by clear and convincing evidence that your current marriage and your previous spouse's marriage was bona fide, right? And you don't want them to reopen up an old case, because that can, even though, yes, the previous marriage is bona fide, that can open up a whole other avenue of uncertainty, because you might have an officer that comes to a different conclusion and then gives you hell, and possibly even reverse the decision previously made on your green card. Now, if you didn't get your green card through a previous spouse and you got it through a family member or through an employer, absolutely you can file for your husband. Now, if your husband is out of status in the US, you have to become a citizen, or you have to go through a special waiver process to get the forgiveness for the overstay. So as you can see, the way this is going to work, the right path for you is really going to be dependent on your facts. And this is where get that consultation. Go to the link in the profile, schedule your consultation. Hi there, Saint Redeem. It's nice to see you. How many months can someone wait before receiving prima facie? And if she didn't receive, how many months can her lawyer contact them? So there's no real timeline for the prima facie, but what I've seen is 2 to 6 months, or 3 to 6 months is when I've seen the prima facie. I would say if it's after that, it's time to contact them and just ask. I've done that. I've just contacted them through the attorney hotline email, and I've just said, we have not received the prima facie, has it been issued? And then shortly after we get the prima facie, because sometimes things get lost and it's a matter of them resending it. I have my work permit from VAWA. When the VAWA gets processed, I think. So you can count about 2.5 to 3 years. That's when you'd get the decision. Okay, I see so many questions. If you have an important question, you can put it in the comments, or if you have a specific question to you, make sure that you go ahead and schedule your consult. After parole in place is approved, what happens next? You will have, now, if we're talking about parole in place for the spouses of US citizens, then you're going to have permission to be here for 3 years. And then you can apply for your work permit. So you'll then submit an I-765 work permit application to get your work permit. My VAWA case is 14 months. I've already work permit and app and done my biometrics. I'm frustrated. 14 months, yes, we're not getting decisions for the case in 14 months. Now, if you have your work permit and your advanced parole, that usually can hold you over until you can get the approval, and you do get your 5-year work permit. So that tends to be more reassuring, but I understand your frustration. You do want to see the end of this soon, but the processing times are slow right now. Can I apply for VAWA if I have a pending asylum and in removal proceedings? It's a little more complicated with the removal proceedings. It's possible. But we would have to evaluate at what stage you are in the removal proceedings to be able to determine what would be best to move forward, whether it's to ask them to terminate the case due to other types of relief that you want to pursue. And in some cases in removal proceedings, you can move forward with a VAWA the defense in court. So it just depends on what the best course of action is. Can a US ID be issued to a person who has been in the US for 3 months? It depends on the state. So the state determines whether they're going to issue that. What's the new final rule, T visa rule? So they released new policy changes regarding the T visa. And it's a number of changes, nothing that is, I would say, is devastating, and only, I would say, only good accommodating policy changes. So for the most part, it's positive. And I would have to go over a long list of those policy changes. But first, one of the things they did address was, for example, if they hit the limit of 5,000 T visas for the year. That has never occurred, but based on their changes, based on the number of approvals that I'm seeing, we could very well hit the 5,000 limit. And in that case, what they would do is issue. They wouldn't deny the application. They would issue deferred action and then issue a work permit until a visa number becomes available. So you would still be able to get a work permit, live here, get protection here until they can issue the T visa to you. That's one of the changes. Another is the continuous presence. So they've discussed that usually leaving the country would result in uh, basically you not being able to show that you're present on account of the trafficking. However, they have explained that in a little more detail, that it may not necessarily cause a denial if you left the country and returned. So that's another thing. And then also about the travel document, issuing that they will allow for travel documents, processing the travel documents. Um, so those are some of the clarifications in the policy manual. How long does it take to get a work permit with VAWA? I'd say 8 to 12 months. Does expediting VAWA move to residency or just work permit and parole? Expediting the VAWA means that you would get your VAWA approved if the expedite is approved, and then you can move on to residence. So yes, ultimately it would lead faster to the green card. If you want your work permit faster and your parole faster, you'd have to ask those to be expedited. Is there a couple's interview for 10 years green card after 2-year green card? They're waiving those as well. So if they call you in for an interview, you need to be very prepared. I have all evidence for VAWA, but the owner, he don't want to give me a lease. I have room. I say, here's the thing. Give us a call first, right? And then let's talk about what you do have and whether that's enough. Because one of the most important pieces of evidence is the declaration. And then, we would have to look at your circumstances to determine what else is needed. Can I renew my VAWA advanced parole? Yes, you can. No, VAWA as in you got it through adjustment of status, you can. All right. And my son filed for me, but the green card go to the wrong address. I was told by USIS to do a biometrics. How long will it be taking me to get back green card? I would say over a year. It's ridiculous, unfortunately. Can an undocumented immigrant travel interstate using a New York driver's permit? So it depends. So right now, I believe in May 2025, they're changing it so that your license has to have that star on it. So that may make it harder to travel with the ID, but you can use your passport, your valid current passport to travel if you're undocumented. As of now, what I would say is check in with the airlines or check in with the airport about what's acceptable documentation right now to travel with. How long after getting case is being actively reviewed when filing I-130 for children over 21? Should you get a response? It differs. I would say don't hold your breath on that one. If my son was abused by his dad and promised a petition for him when he came up on his visa and he came and don't want to do it, but he was abused, I had to go get him. Would he qualify for T visa? So he may qualify for one of two things. Let's talk in a consultation, because remember, I'm not your attorney and I am only giving you general information, but it may be VAWA. If the father of the child is a US citizen or permanent resident, this may be VAWA. Or if he brought him here to the US, your son, then he subjects him to do all sorts of things, for example, in his house, work for his business, do stuff for him that he never signed up for, then that could be the T visa as well. Um, if you don't mind, what nationality are you? Jamaican. So if I give you a little backstory, so I consider myself Jamaican. I was born here in the U.S. in New York. But all my family members are Jamaican. I grew up in Jamaica up to the age of 18. I always go back to Jamaica. So yeah, Jamaican. Hi there, child of God, Mackie. I received an email stating that my case was transferred to my local field office. What does this mean? It means that they're probably going to start processing your case for a decision, especially if it's an adjustment of status, or they're going to call you in for an interview. Okay, so how long do you take to prepare T visa cases for sending USCIS? We work to get it out as soon as possible. Now, keep in mind that this is a legal process where we have to make sure we take the right steps to present a solid application. I often say I don't run a McDonald's drive-through, right? But that does not mean that we don't work fast and hard for our clients. So it really depends on how complex your case is. So, but we work to get it filed as soon as possible. So we've done it in a very short time. So we've done it in a matter of about 3 weeks, with all the steps that we take. And in some cases, we've discovered new information that makes it more complex. Thank God. It's that in some cases, I'm the attorney that discovers new information that could potentially affect the client's case. So in those cases, it takes longer because we want to slow down to make sure that we present a solid, strong application, right? So it just depends on your case. So what can I do to travel, like how the green card may take so long? I have SSN and my date ID. So traveling, it depends on where you're traveling. If you're going to travel within the US, I've had clients who don't have their, American papers, either green card or work permit, and they travel within the US using their passport. But if you have your work permit, you can use that to travel within the country. If you're going outside of the country, you have to qualify for the travel document. Can a J1 work and travel visa be extended, and how? So yes, in some cases it may be able to be extended. It depends on the type of work program you're in. They may allow extensions for some, they may not. And it's really the sponsor that has to do the extension. You wouldn't be able to do the extension yourself. My son's dad is going in the military and will get citizenship as was advised by a recruiter. Does my son first need to be an LPR before citizenship process by his dad? Yes, he has to have permanent residence. But the good news is your 4-year-old son, once he becomes a permanent resident, since he's under 18 and your dad is a citizen, he automatically becomes a citizen. You just have to apply for his certificate of citizenship or his passport. All right. I love all of these questions. I received an email stating that my case was transferred to the local office. It just means they're probably ready to make a decision, process you for an interview. If I decide to, if I decide to use you, I understand you're in New York. So I'm not in New York. My physical location is in Florida. We represent clients all over the country. So no matter where you are, we can work with you. Keep in mind that we are very good at this. And if our clients are very happy, and our clients are all over the country and all over the world. We work with our clients through our client portal, and we have a very efficient mailing system that we use for any original documents that we need to exchange with our clients. So it works very well. Can an undocumented immigrant join the military? No. My work permit was denied, but I was granted I-152L. My grandma died in Jamaica. Can I visit and return to the US without a problem? If this is a travel document, then you are able to travel. You need a travel document. And off the top of my head, I don't usually refer to the travel document as the I-512L. But if you're referring to the travel document, then yes, if you got that travel document, that's what it's there for. But always make sure that you check with your attorney to get specific legal advice about your risk. I'm a little concerned here as just not as your, because I'm not your attorney. I can't give you personalized legal advice. But why was your work permit denied? And do you face an additional risk seeing that your work permit was denied? So you need to make sure you get legal advice. If I filed T visa last October, any new as to how soon to be approved? No. So the processing time can range from 6 months to 18 months. And, it just depends on what the office, the backlog at the office or what's going on with processing times. On average, I've been getting my decisions in 1 year. But that does not mean that I control processing time. So keep in mind, I'm working off of my experience. I don't control processing time. So I have all evidence for VAWA. Okay, I answered that. Does expediting VAWA move to residency? So I answered that. Okay, so you went to the hearing, secretary gave the wrong courtroom and end up missing the hearing. I'm so sorry. And I can see how that happens because you just go in there and sit down and there are a number of people sitting in the courtroom with you and you think you're in the right place. So I would say in this case, you definitely want to reach out, especially if the judge made a decision. You want to find out what's going on in your case, find out if there's another hearing. There's possibly ways to ask for reconsideration if this happened, but it just depends on where the case is right now. Can I apply for PIP with pending VAWA? So VAWA gives you the same thing as a PIP. So I would say this. VAWA even allows you to apply for the green card without proof of your entry. So it does the same thing. So you're applying for VAWA. It does now. If you're applying for VAWA and you were not able to apply for adjustment of status, then that may be something to consider. But then keep in mind again that it really, from a strategic point of view, you have to be very careful about that. Because with this application, remember, you do have to show a compelling urgent humanitarian need or a need to get it based on significant benefit, right? Public benefit. Well, that's great, but a part of that is also getting a statement from the spouse expressing why they need you to get this parole in place, which means that there's going to be some contradictions here between you applying for parole in place and applying for VAWA. VAWA does the same thing as parole in place. I would say even better, right? Parole in place is for people that they came into the country without permission and they're with their spouse treats them well, and but they had no way to apply through their spouse for the papers. because of the way they entered the US. This is giving them a pathway to adjustment of status. VAWA allows you to still apply for your papers, whether you enter the country without permission or not, and to get your work permit, and to get your travel document, and to get your green card, all at the same time. So you can apply for all of that at the same time. So, this is where the consultation is going to be very important, just to understand what your circumstances are, where you're coming from. But I would say VAWA, PIP, if you're already applying for VAWA, you're already almost there anyway. You're applying for the same things that you want under PIP. So yes, my schedule is filling up because we're working to help as many people as possible. That is why we have Attorney Bria as well, and we will be having another attorney joining the firm too that will be here. We all work together. We have the same principles, we have the same goals here. So I'm doing this because I only have so much time in the day. And so I know it's my moral obligation to help as many people as possible. And so this is why I make the schedule available for other attorneys. So please, if you can't book for me, make sure you're booking for Attorney Bria. Her schedule is filling up as well. And then look out for the addition of our other attorney. And then you can hop on her schedule as well. They have the same principles, the same mission as me, and they are experienced immigration attorneys. So make sure you go ahead and schedule now, call the office, and get some help to get scheduled. Is it safe to go visit your home country with a travel document? More or less, yes. There are risks, right? The risk isn't zero. And it depends on your personal circumstances, but that's what it's there for. If you're going to leave the country, get that travel document first. That's going to reduce your risk of being stuck outside of the country. Now, when I say risk, what's in your background though? Did you have a past deportation order? Do you have a pending removal proceeding and you're applying for the travel document, or got the travel document at the same time? That is creating a lot more risk, and would have to evaluate that on a case by case basis to decide whether it's a good idea for you to leave on that travel document. My husband put in his citizenship, but they canceled it. Can my papers be put in still? If you're applying based on his citizenship, you should, and I don't know, but I'm thinking you need to make sure he's a citizen first before you submit your papers. What's the estimated time of case result after you submit RFE? I would say a month to 2 months to get a decision on the response to the RFE. You're welcome. Okay, I have my social security card. I did get my social security card, get my state ID, but my green card was returned because of the wrong address. So what can I do with the travel to Jamaica? Get the I-551 stamp in your passport. That's going to be temporary proof of your permanent residence. You can set an appointment with the USCIS. Go to uscis.gov, and then so I believe it's under tools, and then you would select the option to schedule an appointment, and you would choose the appointment to get the A-DIT stamp. And then they're going to ask you specific information. Then you go in, you get a stamp in your passport, and that's proof you're a permanent resident. How can you adjust your status without marriage? So, for example, if you're here, hear me talking about the T. So, the T visa is one, asylum is one way. If you have other relatives or an employer, and you have current status through the and you have current status and you're applying through an employer, that's one way. So it just depends on your circumstances. Can a VAWA applicant apply for PIP? So I did answer this question, and I was saying, VAWA, you have to be careful. Whenever you're submitting multiple forms of immigration relief, you have to be careful not to be contradicting one, right? So the officer might interpret applying for the PIP based on marriage to a US citizen as being, depending on what's in the application, as being contradictory to the VAWA application. So, you'd have to just tread lightly here, and it might be duplicative, right? You might be, VAWA is giving you protection from deportation. It's allowing you to apply even if you enter the country without permission or inspection. It's giving you the work permit. It's giving you the travel document, and it's giving you the green card. You can apply for all of that at one time with VAWA. So PIP is a two-step process. You apply for PIP first. Then when you get approved for PIP, you have to then apply for the work permit. Mind you, not the travel document. So VAWA gives you the travel document. PIP doesn't. Then when you apply for the work permit, you have to wait again for the work permit. Then after the work permit, you get the work permit, then you apply for adjustment of status at that point. Then when you apply for adjustment of status, you can get another work permit. And at that point, you can get the travel document. But that is probably spread out over a period of a year to do all of that. Whereas VAWA, we submit everything at one time. What about F1 visa? My friend F1 expired in July, but his OPT expires in October. His job do not want to work, sponsor him, but he wants to stay in the US. What can he do? He needs to, in that case, he's probably going to have to find an employer who can sponsor him, or if he's faced circumstances that qualifies him for other relief, he can explore that. But that's where the consultation is going to be very important. I applied for work permit 180 days after pending 589. That's asylum application. With court, USCIS denied 765 because court made clerical error on asylum clock, but now it's fixed. Do I refile the 765? So that is too particular of a question. That's more of a procedural question. And in those cases, that kind of strategic approach is going to depend on, what's going on in your case. So make sure you talk to your attorney about that. I received an email stating that the case was transferred to local office. I answered that. What to do if you have a pending I-131 and your papa died? If this is the case for you, I'm so sorry. And you have to go to the funeral, apply for an emergency travel document. And that's also available. You can set an appointment through the online tools to get this at uscis.gov. Usually, if you can get that done ASAP, you may be able to be traveling within 2 to 4 weeks. So get on it, because yes, everything takes time. But what I've experienced here with the emergency travel document is they usually call about a day or two after we submit the emergency travel document. And then at that point, they set an appointment for you to go into the office. You bring all your, make sure you bring your documentation, show that you have a pending I-131 pending, bring that receipt notice with you, bring your ID, and bring any additional information they may want. And then on that spot and the death certificate. Make sure, because they want to see that death certificate. They may delay giving it to you until you can show the death certificate. Once you do that, then they will issue it on that same day. So All right, these are always such excellent questions. Good afternoon. How long after you do your biometrics do you get your work permit? So the work permit, it depends on what kind of application you're applying for. If you're applying for the T visa, then it's after approval of the T visa, which is about a year of processing times. Can range 6 months to 18 months. On average, I've been seeing decisions in 1 year. Now, if this is VAWA, then you're looking at 8 to 12 months for VAWA. So it just depends. If it's family-based adjustment of status, 3 to 6 months. But I did experience one very miraculous situation. One of my clients got the work permit in 2 weeks. So we just got the work permit 2 weeks after applying, which is excellent. So that can happen, but it just depends on what kind of application you're filing. All right. Well, thanks so much for all of your questions. These are solid questions. Thanks so much for your time. I'm going to be back on Monday. So, as usual, follow me, like, subscribe, and follow me. When you see me go live, you'll get that. The reason I say that is you'll get notification when I go live, and that way you can hop on with me if you're available as well. So thanks again, guys, for all these questions. Let me see. I have one more irresistible question. How long it takes after RFE for medical? I'm in 120 days. So I've seen about 2 to 4 months after the medical to get the decision. Sometimes a little longer, but on average, 2 to 4 months to get the answer on that. Have a good weekend, everyone. And remember, you want to schedule the consultation, that's going to be the best way for us to help you. I have everything in place to help you. So reach out, schedule your consultation with me or with Attorney Bria, and then we'd be able to hear what you have to say, hear your circumstances, and be able to help you qualify. All right. Have a good one. Bye bye.